So in the process of me thinking of what hook I could make for this video to honestly get you guys to watch this whole thing, because it is genuinely so valuable, and I'm just going to say this for credibility's sake, and then you guys could judge for yourself, but just give this video its due time, right? Watch this whole thing, and I'm telling you, some of the concepts in here can really help you move the needle forward and really help you kind of start heading in the right direction. So in terms of a hook, I'm just going to say this for credibility's sake. I've scaled an agency to 50K a month. I started a new business called Create Alchemy, grew it to about 400 subscribers while simultaneously generating $40,000 in the first 23 days of that business. And that was leveraging, again, 6 years of experience in building my agency. So just wanted to say that for credibility's sake, so that everything else I'm about to say doesn't sound some like wishy-washy, mysterious secret knowledge, but it's really not. It's very practical if you guys listen closely. And this is very relevant to creators, business owners, anybody who sells something online, is trying to build their personal brand. This is extremely relevant to you, whether you're a beginner or you're somebody who already has a following and they're ready to monetize. So hope you guys enjoy. You've probably never heard this before, but how does synthesizing information like Bruce Lee gonna make you 10, 20, 40, or even 50K per month in this online and digital era? So in this video, I want to give you guys a very unique perspective on how Bruce Lee was able to develop his fighting style. And again, how is that relevant to you building an online business? Because we live in a day and age where the power behind synthesizing information is what's going to allow you to not only build a business that you're passionate about, not only build a business that you love, but a business that is extremely high leverage and that will make you pretty much as much money as you want, right? It's infinitely scalable with the power of organic content. Again, I want to talk about how Bruce Lee created his fighting style and how that's relevant to really anyone who's building something online. And I'm going to give you guys various examples, so this is super easy to kind of follow along. So to start here, I want to give you guys how Bruce Lee was able to kind of develop his fighting style, and then I'll give you guys some literal examples, and then I'm going to give you a step-by-step process that you can follow to not only have deeper clarity on what kind of content you're going to produce, you'll also have deeper clarity on what you can sell, right? What kind of product or service can you sell online that's very relevant to your past experiences and will allow you to synthesize that information. Again, we live in a world of overwhelm, of confusion. There's just so many different ways to make money. There's so many different routes you could take. The people who can synthesize, right, the best pathways and helping people go from point A to point B and causing an actual transformation are the people who are going to win the biggest within these online and information-based businesses. So follow along, take some notes, and let's dive straight into it. But like I said, stay tuned. This is going to be a whole 1 through 8 step-by-step practical process. But I want you guys to hear the Bruce Lee version, some examples, and then we'll break this down. So and I have some notes here in front of me, by the way, that's why I'm looking down. So in Bruce Lee's creation of his fighting style, the very first thing, right, the very step in this process is deep research, right? A deep understanding of the various artistic styles of fighting, right, that are available. So with that deep research that you do, you're also going through a process of cross-discipline learning, right? You're combining various aspects of these different fighting styles. And in Bruce Lee's case, right, he studied various martial arts styles, right? There isn't like one specific style that he studies. He kind of traveled around, dug deeper, and learned various styles. And why is that important? So when you are synthesizing information, as I said, there's a lot of information out there. And having perspective on what's out there can give you a lot of clarity in terms of how can you synthesize that information to make it more practical, right? So step 1 in Bruce Lee's process of developing his unique fighting style, right? Obviously, this is going to take a lot of extensive research, cross-discipline learning, right? He had to go and learn about all the different fighting styles. He studied, these different fighting styles. And that's step 1, right, is the research, right? You have to understand what's out there before you can actually start to synthesize anything. Step 2 in this process is examining each fighting style from different angles, which is super important, right? You want to look at the strengths and the weaknesses of each fighting style, and that's what Bruce Lee did in this scenario, right? Step 3 is the intuition and personal reflection. So guys, when you think about it, there's millions of personal brands online, right? If 2 people are in the same niche and they're selling the same product or service, which happens all the time, right? Many people sell the same product or service. What is making these people unique, right? If I'm selling the same product or service, because the guy over here, what makes you different is your personality, your perspectives, your interests. There's various things, various nuances that will make people like you versus, the other guy, right? And the world's abundant, right? We live in an online world where there's a plethora of people who will buy your product or service. It's just a matter of getting those eyeballs on your business. So in Bruce Lee's process, right, he had to reflect, and in the process of looking at these different fighting styles, he looked at what is the most effective in combat. So for me, for example, and again, I'll break this down later, what's the most effective content strategies that I was able to kind of implement? So after reflecting on what he found to be the most effective in combat, the next part of this process is to actually synthesize, right? So what you're doing is you're combining the best elements from the different styles. So if one particular fighting style had, a couple moves that were really powerful and were effective, he'd add that. If a different fighting style was stronger in a particular area, he'd also add that. So that customization, that modification, even the simplification of these different fighting styles started to kind of birth Bruce Lee's unique fighting style. And obviously Bruce Lee was very popular for, his quote of like being like water, right? And after you synthesize, what he's doing in this process is simplifying, right? He's keeping things simple, he's keeping things clear, he's removing unnecessary and rigid traditions to emphasize like a fluid combat. The next part of this process, right, to synthesize information like Bruce Lee, is it's to develop analogies. So as I said, Bruce Lee developed the powerful analogy of being like water, right? Being fluid, having the emotional and fighting control to kind of adapt to situations, right? Bruce Lee's fighting style and this analogy of being like water, symbolized the ability to adapt. Now, based on experience and obviously, the evolution of anything that you're going to build, right? There's a process of iteration. This is huge when it comes to content, right? Something I tell my clients all the time is you post for week 1, you double down on what works, you remove what doesn't, and it's a continuous cycle of iteration. So Bruce Lee, right, over the years, he continued to refine his fighting style. Now, the practical application of Bruce Lee's fighting style, right, after he was able to synthesize all of this information, what did that process look like, right? He applied and demonstrated his unique fighting style in real fights and obviously in his very famous and popular movies. So I want to give you guys a more specific example of how this relates to me, and then I want to give you guys the practical 8 steps you can follow to replicate this. So really quick, in my process, right, in building my business here on YouTube, Create Alchemy, I teach organic client acquisition, right? I help people leverage social media to bring in a constant flow of clients, right? Leveraging the internet and leveraging organic content. So in my process, right, in terms of the step 1, right, the extensive research phase, I had to leverage, 6 years of building an agency, 6 years of hiring various mentors and content experts to kind of develop, right? I had to watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, build an agency to 50K a month from scratch. And what that did was allowed me to have a very wide range perspective on, the various content strategies out there. So in the same way that Bruce Lee studied these various martial arts, what I did was I studied different content strategies, different content experts, and I was able to kind of have a wide range of information to work with, right? To actually start to develop something that I could build that could actually help people get from point A to point B. So again, step 2 is examining things from different angles. Obviously, with my own practical experience of building an agency, right, testing and learning, that in itself is a huge part of this. Listening to different content coaches and implementing what I learned from them. Through those different learning points, I was able to kind of figure out the strengths and weaknesses of each concept or each strategy that I could implement to my organic content. And also, like, a big part of this was learning business, right? Because content and business go hand in hand, right? So it was also a process of learning the various aspects of content, because you could create content all day, but if you don't know how to sell your product and service, you're going to be dead in the water. So as part of this process, I learned, what powerful content strategies will help make my business strategies kind of work and mesh together, right? Because if those two conflict, you're going to have a very difficult time monetizing your content. And we're talking about, I have clients that are doing 100K a month, 20K a month, 15K per month, leveraging these kind of strategies, right? So again, the next part of this is the intuition and personal reflection. So this is just me finding out what works the best, right? Taking all of the strategies that I've been able to develop, right, in synthesizing all of this information, I was recently able to build a channel to 40K in a single month with 400 subscribers, right? That wouldn't be possible for someone who doesn't have the skill set, because they would probably only think you could monetize through, AdSense, which my channel is not even monetized through AdSense yet. I haven't even gotten there. I don't even qualify for it. But I was still able to leverage a very small specific audience and make $40,000 because I'm providing a very specific solution to a very specific audience, right? You wouldn't know that unless you actually took the time to kind of practice and implement these strategies. And that's kind of the concept that I'm talking about here. So practicing from all that information that I learned, what methods are actually the most effective. And then to synthesize, again, is to combine the best elements and the best strategies. So I was able to kind of condense all of that information that I learned and build it into various products, right? Personalized coaching, a very private and exclusive community, right? Things that people can purchase that will actually cause a transformation and help them get from point A to point B. So that was kind of the process of synthesizing that information and turn it into something I can build and also something I can sell. So obviously the next part of this is to simplify, right? I removed all of the unnecessary information that is not effective for somebody who's just getting started or even somebody who has a massive audience, but they don't really know how to monetize, right? I took out all of the generic BS. I took out all of the really bad strategies that kind of take you in the wrong direction. And I created very simple, executable, and effective strategies, right? My whole process is about keeping things simple. My whole process is about leverage and not only leverage, but pushing the right levers to actually achieve the goal that you want, right? It's very simple in terms of the content world, right? It's post content, get enough viewers, have enough people book a call or purchase your product, and then you continuously rinse that process and make sure your product is very valuable, right? Because that obviously creates referrals in and of itself. So that was my process in terms of how I was able to simplify all of this crazy information that I've learned over the years. So I kind of jumped the gun in terms of developing an analogy for this. For me, it's levers, right? I always talk about it. The 4 elements of a business to succeed online. It's posting content, right? Most people struggle with that. Most people can't even get past 2 weeks of posting content. But that lever is the first lever that can be pushed before anything else can happen in your business, right? So lever 1 is posting content. Lever 2 is getting enough viewers. Lever 3 is actually an acquisition system, right? To actually capture those clients. And then can you even sell to those clients, right? Have you developed the skill of sales? And then the final lever is just to have a great and amazing product. So the analogy that I use is, the levers analogy. So again, in terms of iteration, right? This is me working with hundreds of clients at this point, helping them with their personal brands and with their social media, right? In order to get clients from social media. There's been so much iteration in this process, right? I have like beginners who come into it, who pick great ecosystems, great niches to build here on YouTube. And they go from, 0 to 1,000 subscribers within the first month. And they also generate their first 10K because they're pushing all the right levers and they're building an ecosystem that's very effective, right? If you're creating content in the wrong niche with the wrong target audience, it's going to be very difficult for you to make money. So iteration is super important for you to kind of develop and understand what actually works in what ecosystems and what types of products are also most effective for getting clients those results. And as I said earlier, from a content example, your first 10, 20, 30 videos are not going to get views, but that constant process of iterating and learning and testing, doubling down on what works and removing what doesn't is how you succeed on social media. It's very similar to running a paid ad campaign. Obviously, you have different creatives that you need to test, and content is literally testing different hooks and creatives, right? And I could save that for another video because we could dive very deep there. But that's the process, right? It's continuous iteration, and that's why it's step 7 here on this list. The next example is just me, like the practical application. So one, using the system that I sell is so important, right? I can't teach you guys something that I don't actually do for myself, right? So I created Create Alchemy for it to become a natural case study, right? To show people how I leverage a very small audience and build a client acquisition system that brings in crazy money in a short period of time, realizing that you don't have to be a YouTube celebrity and realizing that all it takes is one product, one target audience on one specific channel. That could be YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is that you choose. So my initial practical application is doing it for myself. And then the second layer to this is actually helping other people and collecting case studies, which is extremely powerful, right? One of my top clients has just recently did 109,000 his first month with 7,000 subscribers. I have another guy who has 353,000 followers on Instagram. We started when he was at 7,000 and he's averaging about 15K a month currently. So those are kind of the second layer of practical examples, actual case studies. I've also worked with some really large companies like Fujifilm, Luxury Listings, So those are like micro applications for myself, and then bigger applications that can be applied, proving this concept. Because something a lot of people don't realize, and this is extremely important, synthesizing information is cool, but if you're taking a bunch of confusing and crazy and random information and then you're condensing it to something that's even more confusing, then you haven't done a good job of synthesizing information in your business, right? If you could synthesize and your product can actually cause a transformation, can actually help someone get from point A to point B, then you've actually succeeded in synthesizing that information. Super important, take that to the bank, right? The process of synthesizing is helping people gain clarity, helping people build a system, helping people actually take the right information and apply it to whatever it is that you're going to be doing or selling. So that's the Bruce Lee example, and that's my example. And now I want to give you guys the 8 steps you could actually apply to do this for yourself. So as we talked about, I really did explain it through just telling you guys these different examples, but it's really important that you could kind of take notes and write down these different steps. So obviously number 1 is, again, the extensive research and cross-discipline learning. So what you're going to do is you're going to immerse yourself, right? This is a practical guide, right? A practical way you guys could do all of these steps. You're going to immerse yourself in diverse fields of knowledge, right? Again, Bruce Lee studied the different, martial arts. He also studied philosophy, psychology, and other disciplines in the same way where I studied, different content coaches, programs, courses, and then through actual testing and learning myself, right? Because there's obviously different ways that you guys can learn. And the idea behind it, as I said earlier, is to have a broad knowledge base, right? A broad knowledge base that can give you a richer palette to actually start to figure out how you want to navigate it, right? And the reason you want to have different mentors in life in general is it's very relevant to this, first example, right? Because when you have a richer palette, you can draw from different sources, right? If you have the same mentor, then your learning is kind of rigid. It's kind of the same pathway. But if you're learning from 3 or 4 different mentors, you can kind of combine the best from all of those mentors. So this allows you to create better outputs into the world, right? Inputs are things like videos, podcasts, your surroundings, your environment. And then again, in order for you to create better outputs, it's a process of blending your own experiences, personality, etc. But you can't have good outputs if your inputs are bad. And it's very important to have a kind of richer and broader concept when you're doing this. So step 2, right after you've kind of done your research, is to examine things from multiple angles. So like we talked about for Bruce Lee and my example, you want to analyze an idea from different perspectives, right? This is going to help you see different aspects of a concept, right? Deepening your understanding and providing a fuller picture of the topic. And for that one, guys, for number 2, it's basically what I just said a second ago. For number 3, it's intuition and personal reflection. So what you're going to do here is spend time on the concept, right? Even meditating on it, let it simmer, and let your intuition kind of build the direction that you want to go in. You could obviously take a logical approach, right? Looking at what works and what doesn't work. That's probably pretty relevant to what I do. But if you also take a non-logical approach, right? You let those concepts really sit. You kind of have a deeper understanding of, hey, what can I do with all of this information? What can I do with all of these past experiences that I have that relate to this information? And what can I build that would be super useful to whoever my target audience is going to be? And again, step 4 is to actually synthesize. So again, you're combining the different elements into a coherent whole, right? Something that kind of makes sense after combining the good and bad of all of these different sources that you've kind of built off of, right? So Bruce Lee, again, drew from different martial arts style to create his. And what you're doing in this process of synthesizing is turning all of that information into one single unit, one very simple and understandable process that people can replicate. And again, step 5 is to simplify the concept without losing its essence, right? And this is the heart of Bruce Lee's philosophy, guys, right? Being like water is to adapt the idea to its context, make it flexible, make it versatile, and easy to understand. That is really the process of synthesizing, is making a lot of information be very clear, very direct, very executable, right? You've done well when synthesizing information when you've been able to kind of make it very clear for people, right? A lot of kind of praise or compliments that I get with my free consultation calls that you guys could book down below. Also in my actual products and services is people say, dude, you've changed my life, changed my perspective because you've given me so much clarity, because there's a lot of social media coaches out there that make this process very overwhelming and it doesn't have to be, right? Like I said, you don't have to be a YouTube celebrity. You don't have to post millions of pieces of content. You just got to post the right content to the right audience consistently enough. And, that's really how you start getting the 10, 20, 30, 40K months. It takes a little bit of time in the beginning. I'm not saying it's super easy, but if you pick the right niche, you pick the right audience, it can become very easy and become very lucrative very, very quickly. So that's really the power behind this process. And again, for step 6 of this process, it's to develop analogies. So analogies that help communicate these ideas that you've come up with, right? So like I said, Bruce Lee's water, it's to be adaptable, be flexible, right? My lever analogy is to focus on the important parts of the business, right? You can't focus on product if you don't even know how to get attention to your product and you don't know how to sell your product. So focus on lever 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's the analogy that I was able to develop in my business, and it's also my unique mechanism, right? Organic client acquisition. It's a fancy way to say, get clients from social media. So that mechanism, these analogies, these different kind of variations that I've built allow people to understand these concepts and move a lot faster and move effectively as they build their businesses. And again, for the next one, guys, to just emphasize this process, iteration and evolution. So new ideas and concepts often need time to evolve. Don't be afraid, like I said earlier, to revise, refine, improve your concept based on new insights and new feedback, right? For me, it was a process of analyzing what was working, and then a process of analyzing what was working for my clients, right? Taking the most effective strategies, putting a little bit more emphasis on those, and anything that wasn't working after testing it enough times, obviously would be able to kind of remove that. And again, the next part of building your business, the next part of genuinely synthesizing information is the practical application. Test your concept in the real world, apply it to different contexts, to different niches. In my case, it was literally that, right? Applying it to different types of businesses, creators that have fitness stuff, people that work in SMMA, online business owners, people who sell physical products. So testing organic client acquisition for me in those various niches allowed me to find out who it works for best and really allowed me to find out who my target audience and who my target customer is. Now, obviously, this is important to prove the concept, right? Prove this new concept you've come up with as you synthesize all this information, but it's also important to help you find ways to improve it. And that's why this process is so important. So this framework, guys, this enhanced framework should give you a process, right? A step 1 through 8 of how you guys can develop. Really, what you could do with this is not only develop your product, you can use this to develop unique ways to sell it, but really step 1 of all of this in order to build your business, your product, your service, your course, whatever it is that you want to do, what this process is doing is allowing you to take complex information, synthesize it down to a specific, even framework that you could begin to sell out in the real world. And obviously you'll be creating content around that. That is a very practical step-by-step guide to synthesizing this information, right? Now it's up to you to really sit there, ask yourself the hard questions, right? Based on your past experiences, based on maybe things you've already done in your life, or maybe you got to take the time to actually learn, right? Take the time to go learn in a specific field, gather all this information and start to develop your own concept, product, and service to sell, right? There's no better business model in the world right now than synthesizing information and packaging that and selling it to your tribe, to your people, right? The reason I'm so passionate about organic client acquisition is because I've been doing it for the last 6 years, right? I wouldn't be able to come on here and make these videos if I wasn't passionate about this, right? If I didn't have this extensive specialized knowledge that I could share with the world, right? A lot of people in this day and age think that selling a course is bad is because you're just kind of packaging BS and trying to sell it to an audience. But what they don't realize is some people are actually experts, right? Some people have decades of experience and they're trying to provide that solution to the world, right? And in my case, right, I have 6 years of building an agency to 50K a month. Of course, I'm going to take those skill sets and build a high leverage business, right? For me, I don't personally sell a course, but I do sell coaching. I do sell a private and exclusive community helping like-minded business owners use organic client acquisition to add 10 to 100K per month into their business. And again, the reason I'm able to do that is because I have the expertise. I've done it for myself and I've done it for, at this point, guys, I have crazy case studies, right? It's been so many people. But that's the idea here, right? Is I have this extensive knowledge that I'm willing to share with the world. So when you guys do see someone who's selling a course or selling coaching or kind of selling any kind of process, don't be so quick to just judge them, because whether you want to villainize them and make them bad for trying to sell courses, some people's courses and products are life changing, right? Some people's courses and products can help you move to the next level, right? The fastest way to succeed, and I'm kind of going off in a rant here, but the fastest way to succeed is to have specialized knowledge, right? I wouldn't have been able to build my agency if I didn't learn the systems and frameworks to help me get that first client, to help me scale, and then obviously to help me turn this into a fully automated business where I've completely stepped out of my agency, but it's still generating crazy money, right? So that's the idea, is don't judge someone who has built something, and go out and use this process. Synthesize information. If you really don't know anything or you don't have a skill, then take the time to learn it and then create your own concept that you could turn into a product or service. But odds are a lot of you are already very talented people. You already have a lot of experience in various areas, right? Some of you are very intelligent regarding cars. Some of you have a lot of experience regarding, I don't know. There's so many different things you could sell, right? Piano, real estate, fitness, discipline, clothing brand, social media marketing. So all these different areas that you probably already have experience in can be turned into a product. And what better product, than to talk about your passions, right? You're coming online, you're posting content about what you love, you're providing a specific solution to a specific audience, and then you're selling them something, right? So that's the power behind synthesizing information. Kind of went off on a rant there, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found this valuable. And for anyone out there that is a creative or a business owner, I have a private and exclusive group. I also have personalized coaching, so it's really up to you on what fits best for you. Check that out in the description below. You could book a free consultation. I don't treat these like sales calls. I really kind of give you guys a deep dive, hour-long consultation to help you move this process forward, even if you don't choose to work with me. But this private community is crazy, guys. I have a lot of absolute savages in there making 100K, 20K, even 15K a month. Some beginners as well who have just hit their 10K months. So if you guys are interested in that, check it out down below. Please let me know what you thought of this video down in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one.